The three of us are going to start every episode with a synchronized clap, but we're not going to count down to do it.
Every episode. This doesn't last past this
Every
episode.
every episode, we're gonna start like that. Ready?
Do it again by yourself.
Okay, just us two.
Don't do it. One clap is what we need.
Backing up Bautista all the way to the wall. See you later. Wow, Tristan Casas has homered. Swinging a line drive into right field. It's falling fast and it's in for a base hit. And history for Jairo Munoz.
Line fly deep left center. Matheny's on the run. Still back to the track, to the wall. He leaps. And did he get it? He did. Oh my, Tate Matheny. What a catch by Tate.
Hello and welcome to the inaugural WooSox podcast. I think we're calling episode 1 the inaugural episode.
Well, yeah, that would be first.
Yeah,
inaugural?
but we've had a lot of inaugural things this year.
I think we lead the league in ribbon cutting. So
We do.
Yeah. So Dr. Charles.
That was a big miss. I can't believe I didn't think of a ribbon for this.
Well, he's cutting some ribbons on beaches right now, so
Yeah.
it's fine. But we're good.
He's out in Aruba while we're here working hard. By the way, I'm Tim Quitadamo, manager of WooSox Productions.
I'm Chris Bergstrom, director of marketing development.
In this podcast, we want to sort of give a behind-the-scenes look at what goes on with the Worcester Red Sox, with Polar Park events, with the city of Worcester. Chris and I, both Worcester natives, grew up here. Chris, do you want to start because you're much older and have a longer career history? Tell the people how you got here.
Yeah, when I grew up, we didn't have cell phones. So I grew up off of Greenwood Street here in Worcester on Halmstead Street in a typical three-decker, as everybody usually grows up here in Worcester. Went to St. Mary's Elementary School on Richland Street. Went from there to Holy Name Central Catholic, which ironically this year both schools no longer exist. So that's how old I am. And then I went to Worcester State College. It was a college at the time. Now it's a university, so I feel like I should ask for my money back.
You have no schools that still currently exist that you've gone
No,
to.
exactly. And they're like, "Oh my God, you went to a college, not a university." I'm like, "Well, yeah, it's fine. It's a university now." So I grew up here, and St. Mary's is down the street, so I hung out here in the Canal District when I was growing up, and it's kind of weird to be back sitting here in what used to be a vacant parking lot. So,
Right.
yeah.
And then 21 years, was it, with the Red Sox?
21 years, yeah. Before that, I worked for the Worcester Ice Cats, running their community relations and their in-game entertainment, and then went to Boston for 21 years.
Ice Cats games were always the best. I remember going. Chris also used to be Scratch, the Ice Cats mascot.
Yeah, that's right. So
and
if you got a
I
picture of
remember
Scratch,
we've probably hugged before.
That's
when you
kinda-
visited my elementary school.
Yeah, it's kind of
in the
weird. I wouldn't
area.
hug you now. So
Right. It's
Yeah.
strange.
yeah. So, but I went from the Ice Cats to the Red Sox for 21 years, and then full circle back here to Worcester, where I am now. So
Ice Cats games were always the best because there would be at least one fight per period.
no, probably about 4 or 5.
Right.
Yeah.
We don't condone fighting,
Well,
but also shout out to the Rochester Red Wings because there was that benches clearing brawl on the Sunday of that. I think their
and
first
I think you
series
guys
here
played
was
some
a
good
lot of
music that day too for them while that was happening. So it was pretty good. So my daughter was here, and she's like, "Oh my God, they're fighting on the field, but they're playing Frozen. It's really
fun.
weird."
Right. They're
And I'm
playing
like, "Oh."
Bad Blood by Taylor Swift. Yeah, we got a note from the umpires after that not to incite any sort of brawls that were going on.
But there was a brawl already going on.
Right.
So
It was already incited.
yeah, exactly.
We were just egging them on, which
in-game entertainment.
I think are synonymous.
Yeah, I agree. So, now you grew up in Worcester many years after I was born,
Yeah.
according to you. So
What were you doing in 1996?
I was a sophomore in high school.
Okay. I was being born.
Oh, okay.
And I grew up in Tatnick Square, right behind Christ the King Church over on Brantwood Road. I went to Tatnick Magnet Elementary School.
Did you go to Tatnick Bookseller?
Yeah.
Oh,
We were actually, my family was first in line. J.K. Rowling was signing copies of The Sorcerer's Stone. And my brother Tom got the first copy. And he had his picture in the TNG. It was a huge deal.
She came here to Worcester.
Yeah. People forget. But yeah, Tatnick Magnet Elementary School. Tanyan Sturts also went there. Former Yankee and Blue Jay. That's a big major league name for Worcester.
Was your claim to fame Tanyan Sturts?
Tanyan Sturts? Yeah, he also played at Jesse Burkett Little League.
Mark Johnson. I think Mark Johnson. He played for the Mets. He went to Holy Name. JP Uchardi. He was the basketball coach at Holy Name when I went to school there. Yeah.
He's over in Pittsburgh now.
He is. Yeah, and then he was with the A's when he was there. All the good moves he made with Billy Beane. I gave him the advice when I was in school. So that's good.
Mark Johnson played for the Pirates, Angels, and New York Mets, born in Worcester, Mass.
See, Mark Johnson. There you go.
Mark Johnson, if you're listening, please come on the pod.
Well, he currently works as a trader on Wall Street, so we could find
Oh,
him.
yeah.
That is a versatile man.
That's somebody I need to know. Let's go.
Come on the pod, Mark. I need some financial advice. Anyway, after that, Forest Grove Middle School. I'm Worcester Public through and through. Went to Doherty High School. Played baseball there. Shout out Ed Whalen. Shout out Eric Goldstein for being my baseball coaches around here growing up. And then I went to Emerson College, had a couple of classes that WooSox team president, Dr. Charles Steinberg, taught. Those were always a lot of fun.
Cheap plug.
And we had a Thursday breakfast in like a group project with Dr. Charles in Brookline at Zatfigs every Thursday, 8 a.m. In 2018. And he was talking about like the team in Pawtucket. And I just kept saying, move to Worcester. Move to Worcester. It's always been a baseball town. I would play down at Tivnan Field and hear people screaming. It sounded like a full
so
stadium.
Everybody in Worcester should come thank you for the...
Yeah. Well, they should really thank Gene Zabinski for the 10,000 postcards that he got community members.
True.
But I take partial credit. I take credit for getting Charles so frustrated to the point that he told me to stop bringing up Worcester at these breakfasts until the very last one where he said, tell me a little bit more about Worcester. So
we all owe it to you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah. Sure.
You know what else happened in Dr. Charles' sports comm class that you were in?
What else happened?
You met the best producer in the world.
I did meet the best producer in the world. That would be Dylan McCaffery, who you've heard from a lot. Our TV producer for our Nesson broadcast and also producer of the WooSox pod.
So if you need to see any improvements on the Nesson broadcast, please, you can email him. You can
follow me at decaf24, and I may or may not take your advice.
So you went to Emerson, right?
Yes.
Okay. Did you play sports at Emerson?
Yeah, don't look me up.
No?
No. Look up my fielding stats.
Did you play baseball?
Yeah, I played baseball at Emerson.
How was the Emerson baseball team?
The Emerson baseball team is up and coming and has been for about 12 years now. But loved my time there. It was great. We play in one of the toughest Division III conferences, the NUMAC, with Babson, MIT, Wheaton, and we would get smoked every game.
By even MIT?
Especially by MIT.
Okay.
MIT had a kid who got drafted by the Cubs. He skipped his senior year, or graduated early, I think. He graduated early from MIT, which is wild, and got drafted by the Cubs in like the 6th round. Peter Gammons wrote an article about him saying he might be the next Nomar. I don't think he plays in minor league baseball anymore.
Chris, you don't want to know TQ's career batting average at Emerson College?
Yes, I do. Can we look it up, please?
It's bad.
I've looked it up. It is a solid, respectable 187.
187?
Senior year, though, he hit 210.
He must have only had like 10 at-bats then.
No.
390.
Oh, wow.
It was bad.
Okay, that's why you're sitting here.
Right. I'm not a cold weather player.
No.
I found that out the hard way.
Oh, yeah.
What are the fielding stats?
The fielding stats, which everyone cares so much about, his career fielding percentage was 96.9%.
That's nice.
So
that
everybody
is
listening
nice,
to this right
Chris.
now is like, I'm never going to listen to this. This is an Emerson baseball show.
You turned it into an Emerson baseball show by asking me about it.
Because I can't walk by you without you telling me you played for Emerson.
That's just not true.
Well, I don't know about that.
A lot of that batting average I try to suppress as much as I can. It's deep down. I don't know if you saw the look of terror on my face when you asked me about it.
I did. That's why I did it. So
yeah.
So let's circle back to, so you worked for the Paw Sox, right?
Yep. Interned for the Paw Sox, worked for them, ended up operating the video board down in Pawtucket in 2019.
And then all of a sudden, the world shuts down.
The world
We're in
shuts
the middle of a
right.
pandemic.
So before it shut down, I actually did the TV broadcast with Jim Kane, WooSox broadcaster, for the last game of the 2019 WooSox season, which was only being broadcast television on Spectrum, and then we had a separate radio broadcast going out around Rhode Island. And what we didn't know at the time is that would eventually be the last game in WooSox history because the 2020 season was canceled.
Yeah.
So inadvertently, I am on the call for Cole Sturgeon's walk-off extra innings home run in the last WooSox game ever, which is essentially what happens to me in my life. I'm the luckiest person ever, to the point I'm convinced life happens for me. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You feel the same, Chris?
Yeah.
So Pawtucket, okay. So
Yep. So
we
Pawtucket.
hit a pandemic, and then the WooSox lose their season.
Yep.
And then that's before I was here. I started working during the pandemic. At the time, it was still the WooSox. We weren't the WooSox yet, but we had already moved on to Worcester. So explain a little bit about preparing for like an opening day in a brand new ballpark. We'll talk about opening day more in depth later on, right? But talk about what is it like to be stuck at home and realizing that you guys are going to have to broadcast home games every night for a baseball season.
Yep.
That, by the way, might not happen.
Right.
We don't know. You're going to have to run a brand new control room.
Yep.
Maybe, because we might not have baseball games still in Worcester because of the pandemic. And we have no equipment yet, and we'll tell you what it's going to be. So how do you feel sitting at home with all that happening?
As cliche as it is, you have to control what you can control. And at that point, I just couldn't control anything because there were delays in construction because of COVID. Obviously, that's nobody's fault. So equipment is getting installed at the 11th hour.
But I thought you were the luckiest guy alive.
Luckily,
Just saying.
luckily, the season was delayed last year a month.
Mm-hmm.
We were supposed to start mid-April. We ended up starting mid-May. So that month was huge for us to get staff in here trained during those alternate training site games that the team was playing. So we would live.
Now, for people that might not know, because I know because working here, but what is the alternate training site? What do you mean by that?
So that was a lot of the minor league players. It was essentially an extended spring training for non-major league players. So instead of just delaying the season a month and having minor leaguers just sit at home doing nothing or training on their own, what ended up becoming the WooSox, but wasn't officially the WooSox at the time, came to Polar Park and they practiced every day for the month of April. They would play simulated games so pitchers could see live hitters could see live pitching, and they could get used to a brand new ballpark too, which was a huge element to it. Where a lot of the alternate training sites, it's guys going to the same ballpark they played in last year. They're already familiar with it. But here, all of the outfielders are taking balls off the Worcester wall to try to see how they bounce and play in this new ballpark. So it was really beneficial to them too. And we live streamed those games on Facebook and I think Twitter when they still let you broadcast live on Twitter through Periscope. And that was so huge to get staff in here training on all this new equipment, and honestly, myself training on this equipment and trying to build a workflow to see how it would go. And obviously, it wasn't just me. There were so many people involved in making this happen, and it was just an all hands on deck trying to make opening day happen the way we wanted to.
And when you say staff, I don't think people realize how many people actually work to put on this show every night that they come here or are watching on Essen. And all those people are also walking into the situation where everything's brand new. And they're looking at leaders such as yourself and being like, hey, how do we do?
Right.
And you turn around and go, I don't really know.
It's the classic like retail response where you go, I don't know just yet. Let me find out. I couldn't tell you how many times I've said that.
And you're probably still saying it now.
Still saying it now.
Yeah.
Especially as a young professional, especially at this table.
Like myself.
But as a young professional all the time, hey, let me talk to whoever I need to talk to. Let me try to research whatever it might be, this new piece of equipment we have. Let me see what it's capable of, how to do it, and I'll get back to you. In the meantime, that was the other thing. It was always, hey, how do you do this? A lot of times I wouldn't know. I'd go, in the meantime, can you edit some videos or some photos? And it was constant moving pieces that we were trying to navigate in preparation for opening day.
I don't think everybody realizes that
You're
literally
giving me a lot of credit.
on opening day, and like I said, we'll talk about it more later on, but on opening day, in the morning, this place was still being built.
Yeah.
I mean, they were still.
It was being built
It was being built during baseball
Right.
games in in May, June, July. It's still being built now because there's stuff still not done. But the first time I walked in the ballpark was opening day.
Yeah.
Right. And I walked in, and being new I started kind of in September, but not officially until January or April. But anyways, I didn't even really know anybody. Right. It's just like, because everything up to then was like Zoom calls, and it's like, oh, this is so-and-so, and they run that. And, starting to work somewhere where if you're in an office, you can kind of walk around and talk to people and say, oh, how does this work? Or who does this? Or, I had none of that. Right. So just walk in here on opening day and go, what the hell did I get myself into? Right. It's just because I've never been a part of a ballpark opening. I mean, I worked at Fenway Park, and
Right.
I didn't open that ballpark as much as old as you think I am, but I wasn't there. When that
Just
place
missed
opened.
it.
Yeah, just missed it by a lot of years. But
What was it like starting just at home on Zoom at a new place and trying to see like what your role would be and how you would fit when you're, like you said, you're just having like an hour-long Zoom meeting here and there?
it's interesting. It's probably more interesting when you have 3 kids running around your house and you're trying to work, but they're home from school too because they're not going to school. It's tough because you also don't want to feel like you're stepping on anybody's toes.
Yeah.
Because I'm still trying to learn what people do. It's interesting, and I still now am learning things. Being in one organization for 21 years, and then all of a sudden not being there and being something new. I mean, just to kind of put it in perspective, like I worked at the Ice Cats when I was really young. I was still in college working, and then I was working full time at the same time for the Ice Cats. So really, my first career move would be the Boston Red Sox. So imagine I never worked anywhere else in my life, almost.
And then it was 21 years. That's more than half your life.
Yeah, for sure.
Once you left the Red Sox.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Our baby boy, Dylan McCaffery, a spry 22.
22.
Yeah.
My God. Jesus. Okay. So it's tough, right?
Yeah.
To kind of make that adjustment, and like I said, most of it was like you want to find out where you stand in the organization and what your job is. And the biggest difference between Boston and here is when you're working in, especially Major League Baseball, and for an organization that's so well known and respected, is you get your job title, you get your job description, and they're like, this is what you do.
Yeah.
And that's all you do. Because there's other departments, other people that do things. We have a grounds crew that 10 guys are full time, right? So I had never pulled a tarp in my life. Did I think it was the coolest damn thing that I ever did last year? Yeah, I thought it was.
Did you?
I
love
did.
it?
I did. I loved it.
Oh.
Yeah, and then I remember not to
such
go
a
off into
masochist.
another thing, but it was pouring out one night. I'm pulling the tarp, and I get behind home plate, and I'm pulling, and all of a sudden I hear somebody go, "Chris!" And I turn around, it's one of my friends filming me, and they're like, "How's life in the minors?" And I'm like, "You jerk!" But it's so damn cool. So the biggest adjustment for me is that you could get a title here, you could get a job description, but you basically do everything that's not on that job
Right.
description, right?
It's all hands on deck.
It's all hands on deck.
Everyone's
for
just trying to
everything.
help each other out.
Correct. So, not that I learned. One time you guys let me turn the lights on in here. It's pretty cool. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm going to definitely mess around with that next year, and it's going to be fun. But anyways, so that was the biggest adjustment for me is understanding that you're not stepping on people's toes because everybody's doing everything.
Yep.
And you're expected to do that.
And if you do end up stepping on somebody's toes, someone will say, hey, I don't need you to do that. Or they'll say, I got that covered.
Yeah, but there's not too many times somebody tells you that they don't need
Right,
help with something
because there's
around
so
here.
much to do.
Yeah,
There's always so much to
They
do.
don't understand. And then there's like, I mean, when you talk about staff members, I mean, including everybody here, there's probably the core group is way under 100. It's
Yeah,
under
way
70,
under.
You know, including full-time, part-time. There was 70 people in Boston on the floor I sat on. You know, there was like almost, you know, between 200, 300, 400 of us that were full-time. And plus you had FSM and, you know, you had Roush Fenway and you had Liverpool. but it's all
FSM is
there.
Fenway Sports
Fenway
Management.
Sports Management,
Yep.
which is a whole nother discussion, like how they do that. But what I'm saying is everybody had a job, and that's all they did.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the biggest adjustment for coming here is don't be afraid to step outside of that box to help out or ask them if they need help or just do it, quite frankly, right?
That's what I'm coming to find as someone who I grew up working in restaurants, same kind of thing, where it was this is your job, this is what you do. And there's like such a rigid structure to it, and like this is what you're responsible for. You're bartending, keep track of the bar, do the dishware when it's not busy. If it is busy, we'll have a busser come over and do it. And then working in sports and in a creative role too. And luckily Charles comes from a creative background with the Baltimore Orioles.
Did you just say Charles Steinberg's creative? No way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Baseball's Mr. Rogers. Is
Yeah,
what he's
I
been
know.
called before. That's
Basically,
why it's so
yeah.
impressive. I frustrated him by bringing up moving to Worcester back in the day.
But that's one of the best things about working for him is that no idea is a bad idea.
Right. He wants to see it in action.
Yeah, it might not always happen,
Right.
but you could come up with an idea and maybe it gets
Tweaked.
just a little bit.
Yeah.
And then it happens. But no idea is a bad idea.
No, he respects a creative vision. He might not agree with it all the time, and he might have his notes, but like he wants to see
And he wants
us
to hear
go
their
out
ideas
and
too.
do stuff.
Yeah.
Which, coming from that rigid sort of service industry background, there have been times that I'm like, there's no way they're paying me to set up and make a podcast, right? But
I don't think they are.
yeah, well, it's during business hours.
Yeah, exactly. So, but when you talk about doing different types of jobs, also, you know, with Larry Lucchino, with Larry, he expects you to do
Right.
that too. If you're walking, one of the things he prides himself on is having the cleanest ballpark in America. And it was the same thing at Fenway. Like friendly Fenway was his idea. You know, Fenway Park, when I was a kid, wasn't a welcoming place. I mean, it's just you would go there, and if you were a kid, it's not somewhere you wanted to bring your kids.
Yeah.
It's kind of like old Foxborough Stadium was. Now I'm really dating myself. And he changed that there.
Right.
He made Fenway Park a place where you want to bring your family. And I was lucky enough and others just to be along to help him do that. But he has the same vision for here in Worcester, right? It's a minor league team. It's going to be family friendly right off the bat.
Yep.
But you can be different by this being the cleanest ballpark. So if you're a full-time employee and you don't work, if you're not a custodian or you don't work in that department, if you walk by a piece of garbage and he sees you,
you pick it up.
You got to pick that up.
Yeah.
So it's just he also expects you to do things that are not in your job description because that's just the way it is. Everybody should be. If you are a leader here or a leader anywhere, you should never ask somebody who works for you to do something that you wouldn't do.
Right.
Did you ever do that this year, TQ?
Pick up trash?
Or as a leader, ask people to do things you didn't want to do?
Ask people to do
I didn't
something
say didn't
wanna
want
do.
to do.
Right.
I said that you wouldn't.
Right.
It doesn't mean that.
I think I've only asked people to do things that I've done before and sort of led into it as this would be a huge help if you could take this off my plate. If you don't have the bandwidth to do it, it's going to fall back on me and I'll have to find the time to do it. But I would love if you could do it. And luckily, we have a great staff that needs
you guys deal with
needs
this all
little
the time?
direction.
That's our fearless leader right there, Tim
See?
Quitadamo.
I'm so filled with fear every day.
Anyway, so I mean, that was the biggest change for me from Boston to here. I still deal with it every day. I'm still trying to find where I stand and what I do, but it's not a bad thing. So,
did you have game day responsibilities at Fenway?
I used to. Mm-hmm. I was in charge of the mascot program originally there, so I was best friends with Wally the Green Monster, and then so I would have to be at every game. Mm-hmm. But as my career progressed on, I became the director of fan and youth engagement. So I had about 100 employees that worked for me at that time at Fenway, and we would do all the virtual reality, all the fan clubs. It would be the mascot department too, mobile marketing and stuff like that. So on game days, I'd probably leave more along the fifth inning or so when it came to that, after I was done with my mascot days. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so it came to a point where I had a lot of people who were doing game day stuff for me.
Yeah.
But mostly everybody there has some sort of game day responsibility. It's just because they're hosting clients. You got the Nesson side of things. That
right.
Even though it's Nesson doing it, we're still dealing with it and helping along. It's just, you can't imagine how much is going on the game day there. It makes me, I chuckle a little bit sometimes, especially I used to do it in spring training, where the first day of spring training, we would get down to JetBlue, and I'd be standing there and be looking at the new interns, and they're running around like, I can't, we need to get this right. And I want to turn around and go, guys, there's like 6,000 people walking in the door. I said, calm down.
Yeah.
We had 6,000 people walking at Fenway, we'd go out of business. Mm-hmm. So just take a deep breath. It's going to be fine and move along. So, but that's a long-winded answer to your.
I don't even remember what
You asked me if I had game day responsibility.
That's
Everybody
right.
there does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially everybody here does. Because like you said earlier, it's all hands on deck.
For sure.
So what was it like walking? Because my game day responsibilities, I'm directing the in-ballpark entertainment. So everything you see on the video boards, everything you hear, PA announcements, music, whatever it might be. So I'm stuck up in the control room. What was it like being from here and walking around the seating bowl and ballpark during games? How many people did you run into that you knew?
A lot. I ran into people from high school that I haven't seen since high school, right? And I ran into some people from high school that I didn't want to see, and that's the reason I haven't seen them since high school. But even working for the Ice Cats, a lot of the fans are still here. They're Railers fans now. They go to the Railers games, so they come here. So I literally couldn't walk 10 feet without seeing somebody that I knew.
Yeah. I had a couple of games that I wasn't directing that I would walk around, and it was old coaches, old teammates, same thing. People from high school. It was wild to me how many different community members I had met like growing up, and whether it was from school or from baseball or from my brothers or parents, whoever it was, that I would see. I couldn't walk more than a minute without running into someone that knew me or that I knew.
Yeah.
What's up, Steve? Get on the pod.
Steve Oliveira just walking into the room,
So
into
Steve
the
Oliveira
producer's booth.
So Steve also worked for the Boston Red Sox.
Hello. Hi everyone.
And he is just to let you know, whenever you're going to get, we haven't announced our promotional schedule, so I can't say what we're going to do this year. But if you come to the ballpark and you get a giveaway, if you don't like it, you can let Steve Oliveira know, because he was the creator of it.
S. Oliveira at WooSox.com.
Or T. Quitadamo also.
No,
we share an
good
email
luck spelling
address,
that.
so that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, just walking by the clubhouse and I didn't realize what I'd see here.
So we're in the visitors clubhouse right now, which, since Steve is walking down here, we should let the listeners and viewers know, is like the farthest area from where Steve should actually be doing work.
Which is exactly why I'm here, so nobody would find me.
But it's an area you can see if you go on a Polo Park tour.
That's right. And you can see the podcast set, which we'll be leaving up. That's a question I meant to ask Steve the other day, if that's fine if we do that.
I think that'd
for
be
the tours.
great as part of the tour experience to see
Perfect.
where the magic happens back here. So I'm all in favor. Maybe we'll upcharge to see it. Who knows? Just
No.
no, never mind. Okay,
No
never mind.
upcharge.
We won't do that. But anyway, all right, I gotta go grab some lunch. But thank you, thank you for inviting me.
Thanks for coming on. The inaugural podcast guest, Steve Oliveira.
I think he'll be back this year.
Steve Oliveira, the first guest.
Wow.
In our history.
If any of you ever seen Nesson Clubhouse before, he had Steve just yelled in the background because he was a star on Nesson Clubhouse.
He was.
He had in every episode he was on there saying what giveaways we were going to have at the Red Sox, so he was good. So,
Didn't he host the kids show?
He's going to potentially.
He's going to here.
Yeah, we're going to make him. So it'll be good, but that's for discussion later on. So, but that's a good segue having Steve pop in because I think on this podcast we will meet different, members of the front office to talk about what's coming up. Like Brooke Cooper, who's our vice president of marketing. It'd be good to have her down here sometime to talk about our promotional schedule for 2022. I mean, it'd be great to have Dr. Charles down here for an episode one time. We'll make sure please block at
he's
least.
Pretty shy. I don't know if he's.
Please block at least 2 hours of your day. That will be a great episode with Dr. Charles.
Plan a trip that week.
And you will
nice
be
long road trip.
Yeah, exactly. If we're lucky,
save half of it for the way back home.
We can get Larry one day too. But anyways, that'll be fun.
You said walking in on opening day was the first time you were here at the ballpark.
Well, so actually, I had tried to get into the ballpark as an employee before that. But we work over at the Mercantile Center a little bit on the very top floor. And I walked over and I couldn't get in. So there you go. That's the only time I tried to get in here, and they let me in on opening day, so it was good.
Yeah,
but good. It's just I don't think people realize too that most of the year, because of the COVID delays, we didn't even have an office.
Right.
So you're dragging stuff from home back and forth.
That was the first thing that went in the plans when there were delays, and they told us, "Hey, we're not going to be able to finish everything,
and we're not going to cut back on the."
For the fan experience. Yeah. So the first thing was we don't need offices. We've been working from home for however long. So I remember watching you and Steve bring in like extra monitors and for your.
I actually was just bringing that in until like
laptops.
last week.
Yeah. Just always bringing in
and then
like
somebody
tote
said
bags.
to me, "Do you want me to get you another monitor so you have to bring a monitor back and forth?" And I was like, "Thank you." It's like a Christmas miracle. It was perfect. So the challenge is that, it's just interesting to see how the team has come along so far. And there's a lot more, woohoo, always something cool and new in 22.
Yeah.
Got it. So we'll have a lot of good stuff coming up this year too. Maybe even some new songs. Actually, I got a great idea. When Dr. Charles comes back from his
live record the podcast
he can
intro.
sing live on the podcast.
Oh.
WooSox 22 and Woofster, the Wonder Dog.
Who knows? Maybe we'll do some cool stuff if you're a Booster Club member too. You can sign up for free at WooSox.com to become a WooSox Booster Club member.
Oh, we can do a word of the day too.
Yeah.
Today's word of the day is Akame. It's already in there. So
why is it Akame?
Because I like Josh Akame. Is there any other reason that I need to?
Josh Akame.
It's not because he's in town. It's not because he's going around.
Yeah, I know he's doing a caravan, but I just what reminded me of that kid in the Little League World Series, who like JD Martinez, because he hits bombs. Remember that kid?
No.
Okay.
I remember Big Al. Do you remember Big Al?
That was the guy who slid down the street from me.
Different Big Al. I'm talking
Little
Little
League
World
with
Series.
Big Al.
He said, "My name's Big Al, and I hit dingers."
That's who it was. Yeah, that's what it was.
That's what it was.
My name's Josh Akame, and I hit dingers.
He does hit dingers.
Yeah.
There was a very
and he
cool...
makes a mean sandwich at St. John's Food Pantry.
Oh.
Yeah?
Yeah.
He did a great job.
Now you know.
There was a very cool moment, one of my favorite stories from this season. The control room, for those of you who don't know, is up on the DCU club level. There are windows that we keep
Which you
open.
can see on a Polar Park tour.
Right.
If you see a sign that says Taj Mahal,
That's
it's
it.
not the Taj Mahal.
It's the control room.
Control room.
And we have windows that open up during games so we can hear the music that we're playing out to fans. And there's seats right there. So a lot of times people would look in, wave to us and start conversations with us. And I feel bad because sometimes they would try to start a conversation with me and I'm in the middle of something. And I just look at them and ignore them, which is awful. I'm just talking into a headset.
That's what you do to me.
That's different. That's on purpose. I'd like to talk to the fans. I'm just busy during a game. But anyway, the Josh Akame story I have. Ak is up at the plate. He ends up hitting a tank to left center, like 415
Which happened
feet
at
or
least
something.
once or twice a homestand, by the way.
Yeah. Dude's got pop. But our windows are wide open. It's a beautiful Sunday afternoon. Ock goes deep, and then we just hear one fan a lot louder than everyone else screaming, "Yeah! Yeah, that's what I'm talking about! That's
Was
my
I
brother!
that loud?
That's my brother!" And
Oh.
I look outside, and it's Josh Ockhamy's brother just going absolutely nuts. His brother and his dad were out there. And I was thinking, how cool is that for fans sitting up in the DCU club area?
That's what my mom does every time we sign up a new Booster Club member at the booth
Yeah.
on a game day. She's like, that's my
That's
son.
my son. She going to do that
She's so proud.
in this podcast? Every time
Uh,
you speak?
No, she'll probably be embarrassed, never listen, but it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I can give you a little insider from my one day as a bat boy and tell you that Josh Ockhamy's bat has the names of his family. It says Breathe, and it says C-ball, hit ball. So you want to know his secret to all those
C-ball,
home runs?
hit ball.
C-ball, hit ball. 2
Right.
steps.
But you just told everybody.
and to breathe.
I'm trying to go pro.
Secret's
you guys aren't
out.
trying to go pro.
There's going to be
TQ's trying to bring that average up. If he knew C-ball, hit ball, and he was hitting 187, maybe it would have happened more.
What was the average again? 183?
187.
187.
Oh, 187.
Don't shortchange me.
Jeez. Wow.
It was above 200 for his last year. That's all that matters.
Yeah. I dealt with a hamstring injury sophomore year that never got better. I tore my hamstring in fall ball, and then the athletic trainer was like, "Did you feel a pop? Because if you felt a pop, it might be torn." And I just wanted to play, and I was like, it didn't pop. It popped twice, but I was like, I definitely didn't feel a pop. And then I still get cramps. Just if I sit down for too long in the same spot, my hamstring will just cramp.
How old are you?
25.
That happens to me because I'm old.
You
If I
are
sit in
old.
one spot too long, I can't get up.
And always remember how I got you to admit you're old.
It's true. Okay.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Story.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good place to leave it for episode 1.
I think so too. And we definitely need to get into opening day, expand
Yeah.
off of,
Opening day is an episode in itself.
yeah, for sure.
Episode 2, perhaps.
Episode 2, perhaps.
Perhaps.
Steve Oliveira, episode 3. Okay, good.
Mm,
Nah, we'll see about that.
yeah.
But anyways, yeah.
So that's going to be it for the inaugural WooSox podcast, episode 1. Thank you guys for listening. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're catching clips on our TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you're watching, thank you very much. We can't wait to have you guys back at Polar Park for an event or for the 2022 season. So check out WooSox.com for more info on tickets and how to get here.
Woohoo. WooSox 22. Take 2.
Electric Boogaloo.